Welcome to FLUXEDO Junction. I'm Scott Kugler. Each episode we bring you the best music of all genres from throughout the world, and this week we'll be speaking with John Hurlbut and Jorma Kaukonen, who have a new album together called The River Flows. John and Jorma have been friends since 1984. After working together in the late 80s and early 90s, including shows where John opened for Jorma or Hot Tuna, their friendship solidified largely based on musical interests and shared talents. Being close friends and neighbors, John and Jorma have done, and still do, a lot of spontaneous picking with each other. So while staying in place at Jorma's Fur Piece Ranch, Jorma and John were able to capture their friendship on vinyl. Let's start things out with a track from the new album. Here's Someone's Calling on FLUXEDO Junction.
Someone's calling you. Someone's calling you. You better pick up the phone. Might be the calling from an old friend from far away. Days long past. Someone's calling you. Someone's calling you. It might be your mother. Even though she's gone, she's still here. A voice in the air. Might be your uncle. He was your Obi-Wan. Gone for so long now, but still so near. The movies in our mind, they turn off once in a while. They wanna play all the time, but when it's still and you listen, you can hear that sound, just like fire burning through all of the mire. And you can't deny a melody that you knew coming through, just like fire. Someone's calling you. You haven't spoke for a while. It don't matter. Pick up where you left off. If you can, but just start anew. Might be the voice of your father. You were never alone. You were never alone. You better pick up the phone. Pick up the phone.
So, obviously, you've been doing these quarantine concerts every Saturday night over the web. I've watched just about every one of them. And it's honestly been just part of the routine now. And it was really a lifesaver when things were really locked down. Things are only moderately locked down now. But it really did give me and my wife, Jamie, who has been a fan forever also, it's really given us not just something to look forward to every week, but also a sense of community, the way that other fans network with each other in social media leading up to and during the event. You and Vanessa have built an amazing, not just cottage industry, but you've created a situation where other people, whether it be Jack coming in or John Hurlbut or, just all the different people who have contributed to this whole thing and even feedback from your fans through the web. How orchestrated was all of that? Did it turn out the way that you thought it would?
Well, honestly, I wish we could take a lot of constructive credit for this, but as you sort of alluded to, it's really been a community effort. Originally, back, I guess, when we did our first one in April, I think this one the first one was, I'm sitting around, I realized pretty much what was coming, even though we couldn't really imagine really what was coming. And we're sitting around here, our the ranch was shut down, I wasn't touring, and I went, we've got this facility here in our little theater, because we've been doing shows and taping stuff and doing broadcasts for a number of years. Why don't we? And I said, listen, I'm not doing this weekend. Let's do a show. So I came up with the quarantine concert series #1, and I don't know whether we even at the time if we even thought that we were going to do another, but we put it on and we realized that it not only reinforced our sense of identity, but it almost immediately made us feel just better about doing something. And, and you could have knocked us over with a feather when even on the first time that we did it, a bunch of people tuned in and there was all the chatter, the little thing that my wife Vanessa, responds to the chat thing. And all of a sudden it just felt like we were back in the world again. So we said, well, let's do it again. And then as soon as we've done it a couple of times, we realized, look, this is something we're going to do. We don't know how long we're going to do it, but there's no reason to stop now. And if it made, folks like you and your wife out there feel part of that community, it gave us that sense absolutely as well. And we all know how important that is to us. And so it really, it was more than just like a reason to do something every weekend. I can't even really put it into words, but it became really important, and that's why we kept on doing it. We couldn't have planned how it evolved. I wish we'd say, well, we're going to do this. We just sort of showed up every weekend, and because John Hurlbut, works at the ranch, and he was never laid off, and because he's my buddy, he was there. And my friend Myron is my guitar tech. We play music too, and that's just what we decided to do, and that's what happened.
So is it fair to say then that The River Flows, the new album with John Hurlbut, is a direct result of the lockdown and the quarantine series? Is it all interconnected? Can you give us a little insight as to how the project
Sure.
even got off the ground? Yeah.
Okay, so the first answer to your question is absolutely it's all interconnected, and it probably wouldn't have happened had it not been for the lockdown. But that being said, sometimes we've done some specialty things. Like a couple of years ago, we did Vietnamese pho dinners, which were superb, by the way. And then over the summer, we were doing some socially distant things every now and then. And we started. Johnny and I started the pho dinners. I guess that was probably like 3 or 4, maybe 5 years ago. I went, look, we're both here. We got this lunch thing going on. Grab your guitar and just throw some. I started out doing a couple of things myself, just doing solo stuff, playing for the lunch crowd. But then I realized, this is a great opportunity for me, because Johnny and I have been playing together off and on for a number of years. And so I said, listen, now I don't want to sing anymore. I want you to just play your songs, throw them at me, and we'll see what happens. And so it started out with the dinners, with the lunches rather. And so we've done that periodically. And then, when this lockdown thing happened, and I had been thinking about this for a while too, because I love what it is that Johnny does. It's so utterly unpretentious, I mean, here's a guy who, quote, unquote, has never been in the music business the same way that me and some of my pals have been. I mean, he's had gigs, he's played bands and stuff. You know what I mean? It was never his bread and butter. But he just loves to play, and he plays all the time, and he sings all the time, and he does it for the sheer love of it. And I've always enjoyed the opportunity I had to play with him. And I got to thinking about it, and I said, what I do with him also is very similar to the kind of stuff I was able to do with Jefferson Airplane, where my job was not to be Jorma, if you know what I mean, or a front man, or whatever, but just try to contribute to the song in the same way that I used to do with the Airplane. And so all of a sudden I got a chance to do sort of unscripted things that I don't really get a chance to do in my own life. And I'm not critical of what it is that I do, because I love that also. But this is just like frosting on the cake. And so, the more we did it, I said, there's something, I felt some kind of magic going on there. And I told Johnny, I said, I talked to Vanessa first, of course, and she said, great idea. And I said, listen, I want to do a record. And originally, Vanessa and I would have put the record out ourselves. But because Johnny's the kind of guy that he is, and he's sort of been doing business with this guy, Ed Frank, who's the president of one of the big dogs with Culture Factory.
He's a friend of mine, yeah.
Stuff. Yeah, we buy a lot of stuff from them, and they do really cool stuff. And so he just mentioned it to him, and he said, how would you like to do this record on our label? And of course we said, yeah. So again, for a guy like me, Hot Tuna would find it would never get a chance to do a project like this. Except maybe with Culture Factory, but not with the labels we've been. They just don't do stuff like that. So I'm not sure that Johnny realized how lucky we are that not only do we get to make a great record. I mean, I had a feeling that was going to happen, because I just love what was going on. I love working with Justin Whip. But to actually get a company to put out the package they did for us in this day and age for guys of our age is unbelievable.
You actually brought up something interesting there a few minutes ago. You were talking about how, and I was going to ask about this anyway, I've seen all the quarantine shows, and your interaction with John is very, there's obviously a great affection there, and you seem to really enjoy being in a support role for that short amount of time. And it made me want to ask how comfortable is that for you to be in that position? Because I guess in Hot Tuna, it's you and Jack, and it develops from there. Right. But deferring to John, and giving him the spotlight, or even in the Airplane, how does it work? Like even working with another guitar player, is how different is it playing with John than it was playing with, say, Paul Kantner, or playing with Bob Weir?
Well, in a way, I mean, obviously, we've now picked up 3 really different kind of guitar players, but in a way, it's the same kind of thing. Obviously, I started out being a solo player, and so I've kind of done my thing, whatever that thing is, for a great number of years. But when I got a chance to wear and stuff like that over the years, to not have the burden of carrying the show, but just to be able to concentrate on the quote-unquote the music is an incredible blessing, you know, and it makes me approach things a little different way. I mean, it's like, I'm sure the guys that work in the studio, I mean, will know what I'm talking about. Like, for example, when I do something, like I haven't done a studio project for a while, but I do like a Hot Tuna project or something like that, where I'm laying the basic track. There's a challenge there to not not make it sound like it's the same guy playing all the guitar parts.
Wow.
And that's okay. But I don't need to think about that when I'm playing with somebody else. And you know, and Paul and the guys and gals I work with in the airplane, I mean, I owe them such a debt of gratitude, but not just for sharing the spotlight with me, but for giving me, you know, a blank canvas or an almost blank canvas to paint on and never telling me what I needed to do ever, you know. And the same thing is true with Johnny. I mean, I just say he comes up with these great songs. I love the songs he picks. They're not like songs I'd probably pick to do myself and sing myself, but to get a chance to play some of these songs, it's just so much fun. And so it's just been an utterly win-win situation. I mean, there's no burden on me to, you know, to hog the spotlight. I'm just there to, you know, to help make it happen. You know, and as a result, you know, when, you know, I quote unquote produced this record, it was an easy record to produce because my goal was no movie magic, no digital editing, you know, a minimum of takes, you know, just going for the magic when it happens, and that's what we did.
I don't have a lot more time left with you, and I could talk to you all day, but I wanted to at least touch on today, or over the past 2 days, both Bob Dylan and David Crosby have sort of been in the news for the deals that they're cutting or about to cut for their publishing. And not that I'm asking you to comment on anyone else's business, but it made me think about how the way that you and Vanessa have integrated your career and your brand, I guess, for lack of a better term, into the ranch, and everything kind of being tied and anchored to that has put you in a unique position where you don't have to just be a performer. You could be a teacher, you know, you could be an educator, you could be a producer, a director. There's a lot of different things going on there. You could be a restaurant owner. How has that flexibility benefited you? I think that personally, to be, and again, that's not something I think that I could have scripted, you know, 30 years ago, but I think personally, it just makes life much more interesting. You know, I mean, you know, just quickly, you mentioned the Bob Dylan thing. I know some people go, well, how could he sell his catalog? I said, why not? You know, it's his to sell. The Beatles sold theirs. I mean, I see no problem with that whatsoever. But again, you know, I'm a lucky guy. I get to do all these things, and I think that it keeps my mind agile. You know, it keeps me leading. It's like crossing a creek on stepping stones. You know, it's not the same path every time, and I think that keeps life interesting. Well, Jorma, I really appreciate the time you've given us, and the new album is called The River Flows, Jorma Kaukonen and John Hurlbut. We really appreciate everything you've done with the quarantine concerts, you and Vanessa and your whole family, and we're grateful for this new music, and thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Well, thanks for talking to me. I sure appreciate it, and stay well.
Stuck and dry, going down this long road. I gotta move, I can't go slow. Don't tell me about looking up, don't tell me about moving up. I just wanna move a little faster. Roads aren't roads, but still we travel on. Holes too big gotta go around it. No time to wonder if you're going somewhere. Just keep grinding them forward gears. I just wanna move a little faster. Long hill up ahead, you start to build up speed. Get to the top, you come to that sharp curve. Put your hands up on the wheel. Just keep going with the way you feel. I just wanna move a little faster. Sunday drive on a Saturday night highway. Still can't slow me down. How can we quiet the drifter's mind? How can we find just a little more time? I just wanna move a little faster. Stuck and drive, going down this long road. I gotta move, I can't go slow. Don't tell me about looking up. Don't tell me about moving up. I just wanna move a little faster. A little faster. A little faster.
Great. So if you don't mind, we'll jump right into it. I wanted to start with asking you about the art of rhythm guitar. I'm a guitar teacher myself, and while I do play lead in one of the bands I'm in, I guess I identify more as a rhythm guitarist, and that's what I prefer to play. I've always been inspired by guys like John Lennon or Bob Weir, and I feel like all these guys are very underrated guitar players just because rhythm is what they do. And Jorma was stressing how key the relationship between you two as guitar players is to the way the music on this album has turned out. And that led me to ask him, what is it that you can rely on John for in terms of guitar playing? How easy is it for you to work even with another guitar player? And where does John stack up in relation to other people you played with, like Paul Kantner and Bob Weir and people like that? He actually mentioned Paul Kantner more than once when he was talking about how he relates to you musically, guitar-wise anyway. And I was just curious how you saw it. He seemed to think that it was integral, that your guitar, your rhythm playing is one of the key factors in why the whole thing works. How do you see your role?
Well, I love the role of the rhythm guitar player, and it's funny, of the two people you mentioned, John Lennon, of course, was my, initial inspiration, the Beatles being a big part, and being a kid, getting to see all that stuff, and I love the importance of the rhythm guitar, and also being a big Airplane fan, I always loved Paul's rhythm guitar playing, and add Bob to the mix as well. There you got the consummate rhythm guitar player. I love playing rhythm guitar, Scott, and I'll tell you, I've been playing a long time. I'm not one of these guys that became a heavy achiever that I can do all the fingerstyle stuff and all that kind of thing, but I always was more related to the chords and the rhythms, and that's what I was happy to do. Not that I was didn't aspire, but that was a niche that I felt happy with. I love being that guy that kind of did the stuff that was in the background that set it up, and whether it was for a lead guitar player to take the solo, I've been in some groups where we had a killer keyboard player or a horn player that could take the solos, but I do love the job of a rhythm guitar player, and in my mind, I find it like a real crucial part to be a good drummer or bass player, and so that's a role that I cherish, and I'm very happy to fulfill. And Jorma makes me feel real good because he's mentioned to me that having a solid rhythm and stuff makes it easy for me to just dance my leads around you and stuff. And I guess that's really what the job of a rhythm guitar player is. So that makes me feel very good. But I love being a rhythm guitar player.
I remember seeing an interview with Bob Weir in that documentary that was made about him, the other one, and he was talking about his rhythm guitar playing, and he said that he approached it in much the same way that maybe McCoy Tyner did in John Coltrane's band, where he just started using different inversions of chords, unpredictable things that you wouldn't necessarily expect out of a rhythm guitar player, because he wanted to provide an interesting bed for Jerry to solo over, and he wanted to meet him with a little surprise at the end of the line, I think was the way that he said it. And I spent some time, I've watched all of the quarantine videos in real time. Yeah, my wife and I have watched them all every night. It was a real godsend during this whole pandemic. But
thank you.
It was always my favorite when you get up and play with Jorma, and I was always paying a lot of attention to what you were doing. And I'll confess, I've done my research and I know all about you now, but when you first started popping up during the concerts, I didn't really understand where you came from or what the relationship was. And I was like, well, if Jorma's calling this guy up to play with him, that's good enough for me. He's somebody I need to find out about. And so I started really paying attention to what your gifts were and what you brought to the table. Obviously, I love your singing voice, your choice of material, your songwriting. All of those things are important and add to it. But the way that you leave room for him to do what he does, I think people might underestimate how difficult it is to do that, or maybe difficult is the wrong word. Maybe it's just a matter of two people listening to each other, and that leads me to the next thing I want to talk about. When I hear you two play, your friendship and your affection for each other is evident. It's there in between the notes, and I was hoping maybe you could shed some light on that as well. How does it feel for you guys playing together?
Well, it feels just pretty much like what you said there, and I will say thank you for feeling it and for appreciating it, because I feel the same way. And there's a certain chemistry. It's magic. It's organic. But I've had this happen with other friends. I had a friend that I played music with a lot in high school, and we just were like two people, one voice, even when we sang together. And with certain people, it comes together very easy. Jorma and I, it's been like that, and all those things you say are so true. We have a great friendship. We enjoy each other's company, and the music has just been such a special gift on top of everything else, and it really does feel that way. We don't have to rehearse a lot. And in fact, it's funny, sometimes we'll run over something before the quarantine concert, and it just really comes together. I don't want to say it's effortless, but it doesn't take a whole lot of discussion. And of course, we do go over things because you want to be the best at when you bring it out there. But I definitely feel it, and really a lot of things you just commented on. We do listen to each other. It's very important to listen to each other, and so certain times why I may let a lead go a little further, it's because I'm listening to him. You can't go back into singing right now. He's tearing it up, and so we have a real good sensitivity toward each other. I do like to play soft. I'm a softer player, but Jorma's fine with that, and yes, it's a matter of weaving it in and out. We have different things going on, and they're all held together in there. Which is it's real special for me, Scott. And every time we play, even the songs that are on the record, they tend to take on a little bit of different nature every time, like almost what the mood today was or how things were. But I always feel it's excellent. But it's created, and most all that stuff on the record, our first take type, no overdubs, none of that kind of stuff. So it's all a really genuine feeling, and I think you're very lucky when you have a relationship with another musician like that, and that you just listen to each other, you feel the vibe, and you go with it.
Now, when I spoke with Jorma the other day, it happened to be the day that the news story broke about Bob Dylan selling his publishing on his song catalog, and then right after that there was a similar story that David Crosby was getting ready to do something similar. I asked Jorma about it with regards to how the Fur Peace Ranch fit into his career and his legacy, and I know that I theorized, and he confirmed it for me, that the flexibility of the ranch has sort of opened up lots of opportunities for him that are not available to other artists. For example, this lockdown hit, this virus hit, and all of a sudden all these people who make their living on the road are not able to be on the road anymore. And he was in the fortunate position of having at least a creative outlet. And then, of course, he's an educator. He has that opportunity through the ranch. He's able to do so many different things other than just being a live performer, which I know he loves. Now,
yes.
I know that you're an integral part of the operation of the ranch, obviously, and I was wondering how it is for you. Now, I know you have other releases. It's not hard to find. You have another album that's available on Spotify. You've been out there. It's not as if you haven't been active or in the music industry, but it seems to me that your position at the ranch has afforded you the opportunity to sort of rub shoulders with some really, really heavy names musically, other people who are coming to the ranch to teach or just to play. And I wonder if you could speak to that a little bit and how your role at the ranch feeds your creative life as well.
Yes. Well, the ranch here has been such a beautiful, beautiful dream that we all got to share in on. And I've been here, Scott, 22 of the ranch's 23 years, so I've seen all the growth and so many things that have come about. The things grow as time and money allows in some cases, and you always refining what you're doing. But the whole concept of the ranch, it's a beautiful thing, and it sometimes someone can tell you about something, but how it actually comes to fruition and operates is a whole nother story. And this has just been a fantastic thing here. I mean, I get people ask me, well, do you guys ever have trouble? You ever have prom students or this or that? I said, no, we never do. We never do. I mean, in all these years, I don't need to tell you, if you open the door to business, you could open the door to any kind of crazy thing that could happen.
Oh, yeah.
And Jorma's magnetism is, of course, say something to do with this as far as the kind of people that do come here. But so we have a very dream. I don't want to sound sappy and all this stuff, but it's like a gigantic extended family, and we have a real fellowship, and it's all been based around music and this guy named Jorma, So the ranch has brought a lot of wonderful things to me. As you say, I book the performers and help with booking instructors. So we ran across a lot of wonderful, wonderful artists that have come through here over the years. And indeed, most of the instructors have grown with the relationship, where I just met them for the first time. I've been a fan of their music without meeting them on a personal level and finding that they're even all more wonderful. So I take stock in all these wonderful things that I get to, immerse myself in here at the ranch. And while there are certain things that see a guitar player do that will, stick in my mind, sometimes it may just be a technique type thing or seeing something and go, wow, look at the possibility of that, And so I would say I'm influenced by all of that stuff in some way. And maybe some people influence me a little bit more than others, but just by seeing it live and how it's performed, has a big influence as well. And just to give you, for instance, I know we don't have a lot of time to do all that, but Jeff Muldaur was here one year, and when he performed, I noticed how quiet his playing was at times on the guitar, and sometimes he'd even move away from the mic, and I noticed the audience followed him the whole time. I mean, he was able to bring their attention in without smashing them with the loud volume. And I really like the dynamics. The dynamics is a big part of how I like to play, bringing things up, down, allowing those spaces and things like that. So sometimes while I know I won't be playing like Jeff Muldaur, he's quite a guitar player, but the experience is like, yeah, that works, And so it does open my eyes to a lot of things.
Well, it seems to me that you have a pretty healthy knowledge of the root of where these songs come from and the lineage and legacy of songwriters that have come before, just based on the covers that you've broken out during some of these quarantine shows, everything from, Bob Dylan to Woody Guthrie and
Sure.
Robert Hunter and everything in between. And I wonder if you could speak to this is something that I haven't asked too many people about, but one or two. I'm really interested in it. The legacy of some of this music and how it's developed in the U.S. as opposed to the way it's developed, say, in the UK, where it has this basically same root, the same lineage. Effectively the difference between American folk music and British folk music that sort of meets somewhere in Appalachia, I guess, and sort of where it crosses over. How do you see yourself and Jorma and what you guys are doing in that lineage? Do you see a continuum the way I see it?
Mm-hmm. Well, I would be honored to be a part of any kind of continuum of that. Bob is probably my favorite songwriter and one of my favorite artists to listen to and see perform. So I love how Bob writes and everything about him. I would say probably in any culture you have a style of folk music. I would remember being in Finland with Jorma when he was touring, and it was like a folk festival of Finnish music, and it's quite different from our folk music, though that the idea of the storytelling, I guess, is what it's all about. So different cultures can present a folk song in a style that is relevant to their respective culture. But I feel like I do feel like it's a continuation. When we were doing the album, the man that did the liner notes, we were talking about that and the American Songbook. And and my comment was that, you know, Bob Dylan is that American songbook now. You know, I mean, the songbook grows as time goes. And so I don't think we're going to call Bob traditional at this point, but I do feel like it is a tradition, much like Woody Guthrie would have been, that Bob jumped in when he was a young man. A man that is, you know, telling the stories of the time and stuff. So, you know, the stories sometimes timeless, and so whenever you present them, you know, they're still relevant to the time.
Well, we are just about out of time. I could talk to you for hours, I'm sure, but I appreciate the time you have given us, and I really appreciate that I've now been introduced to you and your music. I'm sorry that it took all of this for me to become aware of you, but I definitely am now. And the truth be told, when I requested interviews from Vanessa and from Cash Edwards, who helped set this up, I actually was asking for an interview with you. It never even occurred to me to ask for a Jorma interview. So the fact that I got both is wonderful. But I just want you to know personally that I have so much respect for what you do. And I really recognize what you bring to the table, and I can see the joy that it brings Jorma when you guys are playing together, and I can, like I said before, see the affection that you guys have for each other when you guys perform, and it comes across on the album as well. So I just wanted to say I'm a big fan, and thank you for your time.
Scott, I thank you so much for your interest and also for feeling it, because everything you say, boy, it's like it honors me, Scott, that you feel it like that way, and it's a beautiful record, and it's a beautiful conversation I get to have with Jorma on that record, and the fact that you dig it, that's what really makes it special to me too. So I appreciate that, and thanks so much, Scott, for this conversation today.
Thank you, sir. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a great and safe holiday.
And you too, Scott.
All right.
God bless.
The river flows, it flows to the sea. Wherever that river flows, that's where I want to be. Flow, river flow. When the water wash down, take me from this road to some other town. All they wanted was to be free, and in the end that's how it turned out to be. Flow, river flow. Let your water wash down, take me from this road to some other town. Flow, river, flow, past the shady trees. Flow, river, flow, flow to the sea. Flow, to the sea. The river flows, it flows to the sea. Wherever that river flows, that's where I want to be. River flow, then your water wash down.